Hey, who remembers the 80s? Heck, I do. The 80s were objectively the best decade in human history, and you can fight me on it. They were epic, but even epic eras have their errors. Because the 80s, as awesome as they were tainted with the corrosive blight of irrational bigotry, the fear of and aversion to something not innately evil, but which was seen as such by those looking for evil under every guitar amp and around every comic shop aisle. And yes, I'm talking about
the Satanic Panic.
No, not that one. Nope, but you're getting closer. Yep, that's the one. Now, I won't bore you with the details of how it started. I just want to tell you, Christian, it's okay to play role-playing games. See, Gary Gygax, one of the co-creators of Dungeons & Dragons, was a legit Christian. He wasn't just your run-of-the-mill grumpy guy who gets dragged to church by his wife and calls himself a Christian. The dude was so serious, he taught that Christians shouldn't celebrate Christmas because of its early association with paganism. Does that sound like a guy who would create a game to help kids get into Satan worship? No. Also, the lore of the game is heavily influenced by the works of Tolkien, another serious believer. So no, D&D and other RPGs are not satanic, except the satanic ones. Those are easy to spot. And you won't give yourself concrete tennis shoes and go for a swim after your character dies, unless you had already been planning that prior to your character dying. These 2 points have been refuted ad nauseum, and those refutations are easily apprehended with a quick internet search. I recommend DuckDuckGo. So again, it's okay. It's not sinful to play role-playing games, but who cares? Why would anyone want to play one of those lame old stinky RPGs? Only the dweebiest of nerdy pocket protector wearing geeks play games like D&D and Rifts, right? Wrong. See, in no small part, thanks to much of modern pop culture being created by the people who grew up playing these games, shows like Stranger Things and Community, cartoons like Gravity Falls and Teen Titans Go, among others, there has been a surge in popularity of tabletop role-playing games. And unlike in the olden days of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, this time we're seeing people we would think of as cool, hip, and groovy turning to role-playing games as a fun way to spend time with friends and family. And that brings us to the purpose for this video, finally. I want to appeal to people, all people, but because of the latent stigma left over from the
Satanic Panic,
especially Christians and other religious people, to give role-playing games a try. Now, there are many reasons to do so, but I'll just rattle off a couple of my favorites and I'll let you get back to flaming other YouTube channels' comment sections. First, they're fun. Now, I spelled fun capital F-U-N, and that's because I wanted to emphasize that, but I realize now that you can't see it, so I'm just telling you. They're very fun. Now, before I get to why, there is a slight learning curve which you need to know about, and the curve is made steeper if you don't know anyone who has experience running these kinds of games. There's also the reality of the financial barrier.
I need money.
But it really is worth the time and money for the fun that can be had. Plus, there are resources that can almost entirely mitigate those barriers for you. For example, Dungeons & Dragons has a starter set that's only $20. It has everything a new Dungeon Master needs to start his friends and or family or co-workers on the way to epic adventures. Now, I've used that same box to get my own family hooked, and it worked like a charm. Also, there are tons of YouTube channels with tips, tricks, and tutorials how to help new game masters and players to get over that learning curve. On top of that, there are services like Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds where a curious person can join virtual beginner games of D&D, Savage Worlds, and plenty of others. So they're fun, but what kind of fun are we talking here? Well, the fun is similar to the fun you might have playing Clue, Monopoly, Chutes and Ladders, Lawn Darts, whatever. Only so much better, because no matter what kind of player you are, there's an upgrade for you from those other games. If you're super competitive, for instance, the stakes are higher. It's not just losing your hotels on Boardwalk, it's losing your character's life, or not rescuing that damsel in distress, or not saving the town, or letting the entire world be overrun by tyrannical globalist devil worshippers, etc. If you want really high stakes, you could just keep playing Lawn Darts. Anyway, if you're more interested in laughing, there are no shortage of hilarious moments in tabletop role-playing games, especially when beginners are involved. Also, if you're just one of those fly-on-the-wall kind of people, you want to just sit and enjoy the ride and watch people laugh and have fun, that's also a legitimate play style. You can just create your character to be quiet and standoffish, but maybe you help in some other ways that are not so in your face. Anyway, no matter what kind of player you are, there's something for you. Now, since I'm trying to keep this short, I'm just going to give you one more reason I think you should give tabletop role-playing games a try, and that is going to be the most important reason: the community. That's right, I said community, and I meant every word of it. When you spend time with the same handful of people on a weekly basis or whatever time permits, saving fake people, hunting fake things, you know, the fake family business, and if you got that reference, DM me for your prize. Anyway, all those multi-hour sessions together tend to build a bond, not unlike the bond a dwarf, an elf, a wizard, a man, and a couple of hobbits might form on their way to toss a ring into a volcano, or the bond a scrappy desert dweller, a snarky smuggler, a Wookiee, and a couple of droids might form rescuing a princess from James Earl Jones. In role-playing games, teamwork makes dream work makes, I always forget how that goes. Anyway, teamwork, community. Think about it. All those other games, Monopoly, etc., 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 you're competing against your friends, family, coworkers, etc., etc. Or you're on teams competing against your friends, family, etc. But in role-playing games, you're teaming up with all those people against the game master. But not really, because the game master's job isn't to try to defeat you. It's to make sure you have fun. Everyone, including the game master, is working together toward the same goal. And it's always interesting and fun watching this process as fake heroics and camaraderie magically transfer into reality as stronger friendships and more meaningful family ties. Now, it may sound odd to someone on the outside who hasn't played, but it's true. And if you don't believe me, I dare you to prove me wrong. Give role-playing games an honest shot. Gather a few friends and or family members to join the experiment and see what happens. So, I'm going to close very quickly with a few words on this, specifically directed at Christians, okay? Our faith was never meant to be a solitary one. Sure, we worship in private when we study God's word, say our morning prayers, etc., but we gather to worship corporately, and that's where the magic happens. When we're together with other believers, the Bible tells us something special happens. God is there in our midst. And I don't believe that applies only to prayer meetings and Bible studies. Whenever we meet together, we can do so in His name, whether it's over a Bible, a meal, or a battle map and a pile of polyhedral dice. So try adding a gaming session with fellow believers to your weekly or monthly rotation. See if those real friendships don't strengthen as you engage in fake heroics. If you want help getting involved in an online game, go ahead and comment on this video. You can DM me on Twitter at cal_2 TWO. Yeah, give it a try. And, you know, maybe I'll have space in one of my online games for you if you want to give it a try. Please do it, whether it's in my game or someone else's game, and you will not regret it. Have a great day. This is Cal Jamison signing off.